Namaskar, good evening. You are watching Rajya Sabha Television. I'm Smriti Rastogi with News Tonight. Let's begin the bulletin with the top headlines. Elimination of terrorism and poverty are my government's priorities, asserts Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Launches Prime Minister Shram Yogi Man Dhan Yojana in Ahmedabad that will give workers in unorganized sector a monthly pension of 3,000 after the age of 60. Union government backs 200-point roster of reservations in appointments to higher education institutions. HRD Minister Prakash Javadekar says Cabinet to approve ordinance soon. Home Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurates border electronic surveillance on India-Bangladesh border. The smart fencing project will be operationalized in the 61-kilometer riverine section of the international border where Brahmaputra enters Bangladesh. And token actions on terror not enough. India tells Pakistan government to share dossier against Masood Azhar and his outfit Jaish-e-Mohammed with all United Nations Security Council nations to isolate Islamabad. On the second day of his visit to his home state of Gujarat, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the pension scheme for the unorganized sector, Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Man Dhan Yojana. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that the scheme will benefit 42 crore citizens of the country and added that nearly 14.5 lakh people have already joined the scheme.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Man Dhan Yojana, a pension scheme aimed at empowering the unorganized sector workers at Vastral in Ahmedabad. Launching the scheme, Prime Minister Modi said that the NDA government has ensured affordable health care and insurance protection cover for the poor and labourers. Reiterating his government's commitment for the empowerment of farmers and labourers, Prime Minister Modi said that the only motto of the opposition is to dislodge him.
भाइयों और बहनों, आजादी के बाद के इतिहास की ये पहली योजना है जिसने समाज के उस वर्ग को छुआ है जिसके बारे में कभी सोचा ही नहीं गया, जिनको अपने नसीब पर, अपने भाग्य पर छोड़ दिया गया था। नारे खूब लगाए गए, राजनीति करने में कोई कसर नहीं छोड़ी गई। किसी ने गरीबी हटाने के नारे लगाए, कुछ लोग अपने आप को मजदूरों का मसीहा कहने लगे। इस देश में कई राज्यों में कम्युनिस्टों को सरकार बनाने का मौका मिला, लेकिन उन्होंने कभी असंगठित मजदूरों के लिए ऐसी योजना नहीं बनाई।
The National Pension Scheme for Workers and Labourers of Unorganized Sector was announced in the interim budget in February this year. The scheme provides monthly pension of 3,000 rupees to the employees of unorganized sector after 60 years of age. 42 crore workers from unorganized sectors are eligible for this pension scheme. Workers between 18 to 40 years of age can avail the benefits by making a contribution ranging from 55 rupees to 200 rupees depending on their age. All workers of the unorganized sector with income less than 15,000 rupees per month are eligible for the scheme.
प्रधान मंत्री श्रम योगी मानधन योजना यानी पीएम स्कीम आप सभी के लिए देश के लगभग 42 करोड़, यह आंकड़ा सुनकर के ही आपको ताज्जुब होगा, देश के 42 करोड़ श्रमिकों, कामगारों की सेवा में समर्पित है। और मेरे लिए कार्यक्रम क्या है? अगर मुझे एक वाक्य में कहना होगा तो मैं कहूंगा कि भारत को जिन्होंने निर्माण कर रहे हैं, भव्य भारत के सच्चे जो निर्माता है, ये हमारी योजना मेरे हिसाब से मां भारती के मजदूरों के पसीने का, मां भारती के मजदूरों के पसीने का, मां भारती के भाल पर ये तिलक के समान है।
PM Modi also handed out the PM SYM pension cards to select beneficiaries. Earlier in the day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the Annapurna Dham Trust in the state capital Gandhinagar. He laid the foundation stone of Shikshan Bhavan and Vidyarthi Bhavan. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And after his 2-day visit to Gujarat, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a mega rally in Dhar in Madhya Pradesh. Addressing the public gathering, the Prime Minister hit out at those who questioned the government over casualties in the IAF airstrike at Jaish-e-Mohammed camp in Balakot in Pakistan. The Prime Minister said that the entire world feels that India has done the right thing by giving a befitting reply to perpetrators of the Pulwama terror attack. But by questioning the valor of the armed forces and asking for proof of the airstrikes, opposition leaders are acting as poster boys of Pakistan.
हमारी सेना का जो पराक्रम है, उस पराक्रम पर आपको गर्व है? गर्व है? गर्व है? साथियों, आपको लगता है कि हमारे वीर जवानों ने सही किया? पूरे देश को लगता है कि हमने सही किया? अरे सारी दुनिया ने कह दिया था कि हां, हिंदुस्तान के लिए यही मार्ग था। लेकिन हमारे देश का दुर्भाग्य है कि हां, कुछ ऐसे लोग हैं जिनको ऐसा नहीं लगता है। भाइयों और बहनों, जिस पार्टी ने सबसे लंबे समय तक देश पर शासन किया, जिस पार्टी के नेताओं ने हमारी पराक्रमी सेना के हाथ बांध करके रखे, उसके नेता अब हमारे वीर जवानों के सामर्थ्य पर सवाल उठा रहे हैं।
Union Minister Harsimrat Kaur Badal also hit out at the opposition parties for uniting against the government for its action against terrorists. In an exclusive interview to Rajya Sabha Television, she said, in doubting the IAF airstrike at the Jaish-e-Mohammed camp in Pakistan, the opposition has completely exposed itself before the country.
What can be more shameful and more worse than that? And they're standing totally exposed in front of the people. What you should be appreciating is the fact that a strong decision was taken by a leader, by the government, and the armed forces were told to go ahead and take whatever action they deemed fit. The action taken by the armed forces is something which will go down in history as to how a neat and clean, a precise operation was done. And not only should you be patting the backs of the armed forces who went into an enemy territory. So not only should you appreciate that, but you should appreciate the fact that the armed forces was allowed to do that and given the green signal by a leader who took an instantaneous decision and said, you have a free hand, go ahead and do what you want.
And you can also watch the entire interview at 10 p.m. on Wednesday on our program To The Point. Some more developments. 3 weeks after the Pulwama terror attack, Navy Chief Admiral Sunil Lanba has warned that terrorists are being trained to carry out seaborne attacks on India. He said this while addressing a gathering of global experts from defense sector and diplomats at the Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue. Lanba also added that Pulwama terror attack was perpetrated by extremists and aided by a state that seeks to destabilize India. He further said that region had witnessed multiple forms of terrorism in the recent years and few countries in this part of the world had been spared.
witnessed multiple forms of terrorism in recent years, and few countries in this part of the world have been spared by this cause. The global nature which terrorism has acquired in recent times has further enhanced the scope of this threat. India, however, faces a far more serious version of terrorism, state-sponsored terrorism. We have all witnessed the horrific scale of the extremist attack in the Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir just 3 weeks ago. This violence was perpetuated by extremists aided and abetted by a state which seeks to destabilize India. We also have reports of terrorists being trained to carry out attacks with various modus operandi, including through the medium of the sea. We have seen how quickly terrorist groups evolve across the globe. With the particular brand of terror may well become a global problem in the near future. The Indian security establishment is continuously working to address this menace. It is imperative that the global common community acts in concert to contain and eliminate terrorism in all its forms.
And for more on this, we'll go across to retired Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha, who is also a defense expert. So we really appreciate you joining us on our show. So what is the focus of the Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue 2019?
I think it is, everybody believes now that the Indian Ocean and the Pacific, they are almost a thoroughfare of the world trade. And any disruption in this area, either by terrorists or by non-state actors or by non-law-abiding countries, can actually impact the trade worldwide. And therefore, it is a gathering which is gathered here in Delhi, and they are trying to figure out as to what kind of security structure should be put in place in the Indo-Pacific so that these traditional or rather non-traditional threats can be taken care of jointly. Because it's not possible for one country to take care of such a huge area. And I would like to recall the then CNO of the US Navy, Admiral Mike Mullen, who had said that we require a 1,000-ship Navy, and that he was talking about the worldwide Navy. And we are nowhere close to it as yet.
What are the opportunities for India in the region?
India has a great opportunity because the Indian Ocean, the one part of the Indo-Pacific, India is the regional part, and we are also the net security provider of all the countries in the littoral of the Indian Ocean. And therefore, this part of the Indian Ocean security architecture needs to have India as the lead country and all other countries along with it so that we can form a regional part. But what I suggest is one suggestion that I wish to make is that what can be done immediately is that the maritime domain awareness of the Indo-Pacific can be increased by getting the countries of the Quad, for example, India, Japan, USA and Australia, if we get them on one MDA and we have all the data fusion center in all these 4 countries, then we will be more aware of what is happening in this region, who is law-abiding, who is not law-abiding, and where is the need for an intervention or some kind of action to make sure that the world trade flows absolutely smoothly.
Navy Chief Admiral Sunil Lanba has warned that terrorists are being trained to carry out seaborne attacks on India. How prepared is India to combat such a threat?
You will recall, the 2611 exposed our weaknesses along the coastline, and thereafter we have come a long way. We have a 7,500 kilometers long coastline and fairly widespread fishing community. On any given day, there are more than 50,000 fishing boats on the west coast of India, and it becomes very difficult to identify each one of them. But we have got the coastal radar stations. We have got a surveillance grid by which the ships, aircraft and submarines are constantly in patrol in those areas so that every movement can be tracked. But as the Chief of Naval Staff mentioned,
right.
When Azmal Kasab was being questioned after the Mumbai attack, he was asked by the intelligence agencies that why didn't you attack the naval harbor in Bombay rather than going to a fishing village in Badwar Park? His immediate response was, for that, there is a separate team being prepared by the Lashkar-e-Taiba with the help of the Pakistan Navy. So he's absolutely right. Though we have enhanced, it is very difficult for any country to penetrate those areas. The point is that, you know, they will still try and see if there are any loopholes, if there are any gaps, and they might like to exploit it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sinha, for joining us and helping us understand that very important development in detail. Moving on, India has said that it will not be satisfied by the Pakistani government's token actions against terrorists. India has said that it needs strong evidence that terrorists have stopped their activities, and investigation has been started against them. India has also taken renewed diplomatic initiatives to isolate Pakistan on terrorism. The government is planning to share the dossier against Jaish-e-Mohammed and its chief Masood Azhar with all the countries of the United Nations Security Council. India is talking separately with the permanent members of the UNSC, which are America, Russia, Britain, France and China on this matter. According to the government sources, China's attitude has been positive on this issue. Last week, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi had accepted the presence of Masood Azhar in their territory. India has said it does not believe reports that Masood Azhar is ill. Pakistani troops on Tuesday violated ceasefire along the line of control in Rajouri district of Jammu and Kashmir. The latest ceasefire violation took place in Naushera sector of Rajouri district, prompting strong and effective retaliation by the Indian Army. Pakistani Army initiated unprovoked ceasefire violation by shelling with mortars and firing of small arms. There has been a spurt in ceasefire violation by Pakistan after India's airstrike in Jaish-e-Mohammed terror camp in Balakot. 4 persons were killed and several others injured in over 60 ceasefire violations along the line of control in the twin districts of Rajouri and Poonch last week. And more news, Home Minister Rajnath Singh on Tuesday inaugurated an electronic surveillance project in Dhubri district of Assam along the India-Bangladesh border. The project is called BOLKIT, Border Electronically Dominated Quick Response Team Interception Technique, under the Comprehensive Integrated Border Management System. Under this project, a wide range of electronic gadgets have been installed along the Indo-Bangla border in Dhubri district. This 61-kilometer stretch of border is highly porous and riverine, and that's why guarding it is a daunting task. Therefore, to check illegal immigration, smuggling of arms, ammunition, drugs and cattle, the riverine border has been put under the round-the-clock surveillance. Underwater and underground sonar sensors have been installed along the riverine border in Dhubri to detect any illegal cross-border activities. According to the Home Ministry, with the enabling of electronic surveillance in the unfenced riverine border area of Dhubri, now the entire span of Brahmaputra has been covered with a data network generated by microwave communication, OFC cables, DMR communication, day and night surveillance cameras and intrusion detection system. These modern gadgets installed under the BOLKIT project will provide feeds to the BSF control rooms along the border and enable the paramilitary forces' quick reaction team to thwart any possibility of illegal border crossing and crimes.
जो फेंसिंग होती है, फेंसिंग तो 4 साल, 6 साल, 8 साल, 10 साल के बाद जंग लग जाती है, कभी टूट जाती है, कभी यदि वो राजस्थान की अकायदी क्षेत्र है तो पूरी सैंड आकर पूरी तरह से ढक लेती है। तो इन सब सारी मुसीबतों से निजात मिलेगी इससे, और एक परफेक्ट जो है पूरी इसकी सर्विलेंस पूरे बॉर्डर की हो सकेगी। इसके पहले 11 किलोमीटर हम लोगों ने किया था, जो हमारा इंटरनेशनल बॉर्डर है जम्मू में, इंडो पार, और ये इंडो बांग्लादेश बॉर्डर पर 61 किलोमीटर यहाँ पर यह सिस्टम ये लगाया गया है।
The Union Cabinet is likely to take up an ordinance on Thursday on the reservation mechanism for university teachers. As per the sources, Human Resource Development Ministry had sent an ordinance on the reservation mechanism for faculties in universities for cabinet approval. Earlier in the day, Human Resource Development Minister Prakash Javadekar said the centre was committed to restore the reservation roster in educational institutions and there was no need for any agitation. Various students and teachers' organizations have been urging the government to bring an ordinance to restore the 200-point roster, taking college or university as a unit for reservation in teaching posts.
आरक्षण होना चाहिए और डिपार्टमेंट वाइज नहीं होना चाहिए, यही सरकार की भूमिका है। और इसलिए मैंने लोकसभा में और राज्यसभा में आश्वासन दिया था कि अगर हमारा रिव्यू पिटीशन खारिज होता है तो कानूनन जो उपाय है वो हम करेंगे, लेकिन डिपार्टमेंट वाइज रोस्टर नहीं होगा और यूनिवर्सिटी वाइज ही रोस्टर होगा। आज भी मैं वही दोहरा रहा हूं और 2 दिन प्रतीक्षा करें लोग, उनको 2 दिन में न्याय मिलेगा, इतना मैं आज आश्वस्त कर सकता हूं।
The Congress and the Aam Aadmi Party will not enter into an alliance for the upcoming general elections. The Congress Delhi unit chief Sheila Dikshit announced on Tuesday. The decision came after Congress chief Rahul Gandhi called a meeting of all leaders of the Delhi unit to discuss the possibility of an alliance. This just days after the Aam Aadmi Party announced 6 candidates for the 7 seats in Delhi. Aam Aadmi Party had announced the Congress party of turning down its proposal for a tie-up.
डिसीजन था कि क्या हमें गठबंधन करना चाहिए, नहीं तो यूनानिमस डिसीजन यही हुआ कि गठबंधन नहीं होगा। राहुल जी ने थे वहाँ पे, राहुल जी के सामने ये डिसीजन हुआ, तो इट्स फाइनल।
DMK will contest from 20 seats in Tamil Nadu in the upcoming Lok Sabha elections. This was announced after the party leaders finalized its seat-sharing agreements with all its 8 allies. The process of identifying the 20 constituencies will start later this week. The DMK will lead a rainbow coalition comprising of Congress, left parties and 5 other regional parties of the state. The Congress is allotted the lion's share of the seats among the DMK's allies, with the Grand Old Party receiving 9 seats in the state, beside the lone Puducherry segment. There are a total of 39 Lok Sabha constituencies in Tamil Nadu and 1 in the Union Territory of Puducherry. Meanwhile, the Rashtriya Lok Dal will contest 3 Lok Sabha seats as part of an alliance with the Samajwadi Party and the BSP in Uttar Pradesh. This was announced by both SP Chief Akhilesh Yadav and RLD's Jayant Chaudhary at a press conference in Lucknow today. The seats were finalized after over a month-long negotiations with the parties. As per the latest arrangement, RLD would contest Mathura, Bagpat and Muzaffarnagar Lok Sabha seats. Addressing the press conference, Akhilesh Yadav asserted that the Congress too is a part of the Mahagathbandhan in Uttar Pradesh with 2 seats of Amethi and Raebareli to contest. BSP chief Mayawati and Samajwadi Party's Yadav had jointly announced their alliance in January in the state for the Lok Sabha polls.
कि जो प्रभावी गठबंधन पूरे उत्तर प्रदेश में पहले से काम कर रहा था समाजवादी पार्टी और बहुजन समाज पार्टी का, जिसमें बड़ी पहल माननीय अखिलेश यादव जी ने और माननीय बहन कुमारी मायावती जी ने ली है, राष्ट्रीय आवश्यकताओं को देखते हुए, समाज की आवश्यकताओं को देखते हुए, नौजवान, किसान और दलित वर्गों की अपेक्षाओं को देखते हुए, उम्मीदों को देखते हुए उस पहल में राष्ट्रीय लोकदल भी शामिल रहेगा।
कि कांग्रेस पार्टी भी महागठबंधन में है, 2 सीटें कांग्रेस पार्टी के पास हैं, वो चुनाव लड़ेंगे।
Over 93% households in rural India have access to toilets. These are the findings of the National Annual Rural Sanitation Survey 2018-19, commissioned by the Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitization. The ministry said that the survey covered 92,040 households in 6,136 villages across states and union territories of India. During the survey conducted between November 2018 and February 2019, it was found that 93.1% of households have access to toilets and 96.5% of those who had access to toilets used them. 90.7% villages which were previously declared and verified as ODF were reconfirmed to be ODF, that is open defecation free. 95.4% of the villages surveyed found to have minimal litter and minimal stagnant water. The government said that Swachh Bharat Mission has changed the behavior of hundreds of millions of people with respect to toilet access and usage since its launch in October 2014. And that's all we have for you in this edition of News Tonight. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.